Are you a young person interested in networking and making an impact? Then this podcast is for you. Welcome to another exciting episode of Amplifying Girls' Voices podcast. My name is Chantel and I am your host. Beside me are my beautiful, beautiful co-hosts. Ladies, please introduce yourselves.
Okay. Hi, my name is Gugu and thank you for joining our podcast today.
Hi, my name is Andile. Thank you for joining us today.
All right. Recently I was admiring how much opportunities for young people keep on popping up. And of course, as people that have experience, should I say, in terms of networking and making impact through exchange programs, I'd like to know from your guys' experience, what did you guys do? I mean, it's towards the year end, but I'm sure you guys were doing something exciting during the year through this exchange program. So I'm going to start with you.
Okay. So recently I got the opportunity of going on tour with a nonprofit organization called Kinderkultur Karawane. It's based in Germany. And so I'm also a poet, and most of the times I use my poetry to raise awareness for the issues that I really think are pressing issues in my community. And so this year I was told by one of my mentors in art, he was like, so there's a program that needs young artists. You really don't have to know a lot of things, because the program also requires you to be able to do different kind of things. So they're not even looking for professionals. They just want young people who try, and young people are interested in raising awareness on certain things. And so I got the opportunity of working in that project, and this year we're focusing on almost every single SDG. So we're doing a theatre play that had different SDGs in it. There was quality education, access to water, access to healthcare, and then no poverty, zero hunger. And so during my tour, I really got to connect a lot with certain issues that I was raising awareness for, because it's different when you're trying to preach the gospel to people who already know what you're talking about. But then during the project, I got to talk about those issues to someone who won't understand what water rationing is. And so when you then look at it from that perspective, you then realize, Wuti, there's really a need for you to be raising awareness for those certain issues. Because when you then go to audiences who really don't know much of what you're talking about, you then realize that, oh, cool. So what I'm actually doing is making a difference, because I'm now, showing other people what's going on in the other side of the world. So my program was basically that. So it's an art exchange program, but you're also focusing on certain SDGs.
Okay, so it was more of a cultural exchange.
Yes, it was also a cultural exchange.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And what of yours, Andile?
Okay, so I did a gap year program called Take Action Lab in Cape Town, South Africa, and it's hosted by an organization called Tilting Futures, which is formerly known as Global Citizen Year. And basically they match high school graduates with organizations who share similar interests. For example, if you're interested in environmental causes, if you're interested in education, they will place you to do an internship at that organization. So I did an internship at under the education department of the Students' Health and Welfare Centers organization, which is led by the University of Cape Town. So I was a teacher. I was a STEM teacher for the NPO, and I used to teach like everyone, basically from like little kids to like grown-ups. So it was just a program for all people to have access to like computer literacy education, coding, robotics, etc.
Interesting. So I think from both your exchange, one thing that I've taken note of is the fact that they don't need to have you to have a qualification in something specific, but they just want someone who wants to make an impact. So in terms of I don't know if we should do a compare and contrast. So I'd like to know from your experience, what kind of impact do you think you made from the program that you went to? Do you think it helped you in terms of building yourself as a brand, or the community that you come from? How would you compare the community that you went to with the one that we have right here at home?
I feel like we share a lot of similarities with like Cape Town, because there's like the digital divide, and that's an aspect of education that still has a lot of gaps for young people. So there's need for like free computer labs here just as there is need there. So that's one similarity that I saw. And in terms of impact, I felt like I made a lot of impact because I just saw how every day there were people who were just coming through, and we didn't have just one like hub. There were multiple hubs in different communities, so we'd move through those different hubs, and people would come like voluntarily. It's not like we would go around recruiting people, but we really saw that there is a need because people were showing up. And also it was a 3 months gap year internship, so from the time that I started to the time that I left, I noticed how so many young people had learned so much, and how having like other young people being the teachers and being like the ones who were running the whole thing really motivated them to like, you know, have optimism for this and to not fear like computers, because you will notice that if you're in an underserved community and you bring computers, people are kind of fearful of digital media, of computers. But by the time I left, like, young people were now confident, you know, to use computers. They were starting to learn coding, they were starting to learn robotics, and yeah, so that was really beautiful.
Okay. And so I think for me, we once like made a joke when we were still in South Africa, traveling to our way there to Germany. We're saying like you're going to notice how certain standards of living and services change as you proceed in your journey. So you're going to notice a certain difference when you live here and then you go to South Africa, and then when you also like do your connecting flights. And when you get there, I think it took me almost a month to like take everything in. Like I'm not going to like, that's how long it took for me to be able to, you know, to start being comfortable and stop saying every time I see something new. Because it started from the airport, you know, when someone's picking up and you look at the roads, and the roads are so clean, and you're asking, is there someone who comes to clean the roads every 2 seconds or something? And no, the people there just normalize keeping their environment clean. And I think that's the first difference that I noticed, that it's not about us having enough beans around, it's our mentality that we have. And so like, it's one of the first things that you're going to notice when you get there, that people really take care of their environment. And honestly, we don't lack much in order for us to be able to take care of our environment. It's all up to us, you know, in changing the mindset. And the other thing would be free education. I noticed that the kids over there, they get a lot of things for free. Like some of them go to school and they don't have to pay. Most schools are free. And then I thought that, imagine if our education was also free, including tertiary education, because there you can go to university and we don't have to pay anything. And I was thinking that back at home, we have so many girls who are not progressing to university because university is insanely expensive. And I was like, imagine if they were to change that for us too, like the change we would make in our lives would be so big. And also access to healthcare. You can go for the simplest of checkups, like the eye checkups, and they do it for free, and then they even recommend glasses for you. And then I remember that this one time my mom had issues with her eyes, but then the money she was charged by the private doctor was insane. So I was like, it's the littlest of things that if they were to change for us, honestly, our lives would, you know, would become so much better. And it's also the standard of living, how people are able to afford the littlest of things, you know, being able to go out with your family, being able, you know, to afford the basic of things. And then I was like, back home, you know, you have to think 3 times before buying anything. And so when you get there and you tell someone that, well, not even a lot of people have access to Wi-Fi, and you're going to hear a kid complaining, what am I supposed to do without Wi-Fi? And then you're going to realize that the standards of living are so different. And what I liked is that even though I look back at home, you know, with all those differences between us and them, but people here are still so very happy, because sometimes we'd meet people, you know, and after performances, they would come to us and be like, oh my, Africa is such a vibrant place. And I'm like, yes. Like, we've learned to make the most out of nothing. And that's what I've loved coming back home. Because honestly, I feel like when I got back home, fair and fine, I did see the dirty streets, but I loved seeing how innovative the people are, you know, when it comes to everything else. That even though, like, they don't have much, even if, you know, education is not free, we still have parents, you know, who are hustling to make sure that kids go to school. And so the standards of living really are different, but I like how people can still be happy here with the littlest of things that we have. And when it comes to impact, I was working a lot with young children, so I used to do workshops in schools. And in the first days, it was really, really trying, because when you've never really really learned how to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And then you're now supposed to teach an entire class. And, some of them will be like, no, I don't want to do this, because, they are kids and you really can't force them. So during the first days, I had to like take 10 breaths every 10 seconds. I'm like, just keep going, because when you're not really a teacher, it's really hard when you're starting it. And I had to teach some of the kids when we talk about SDGs and whatnot, and it's really hard again when you're talking to someone who really has never experienced it, and you want them to relate to something like no poverty, zero hunger. And so during the first days it was really, really hard. It's also really hard for me to open up to the kids, and for me to start having laughs with them, because when you're also getting used to the environment, it's really hard to start getting used to the people. But in the end, when you leave a school, so many kids are interested in starting labs that are going to help other people. So many people are interested in starting environmental clubs, and you're like, wow, so I really did make some sort of difference. So I feel like I did make an impact, but I would like maybe for me to be able to do the same thing here, because I realize how easy it is for you to then go that side and start teaching people in workshops. While it's here back at home, I really don't go around much in schools teaching in workshops, and I was like, maybe we should start doing something similar here.
Okay, I think that's really interesting. That's a whole lot to take in. Okay, so how would you compare the uptake of people? I understand during applications, there's definitely something that they need on your application. So how do you think the uptake was to young people, especially girls? Was it exceptional to gender and any of that? How do you think it was? Was it fair or what?
Okay, so always the issue of applications. Like I started applying for exchange programs, I think, as soon as I finished high school. And the pressure every time when an email comes through and it's, we regret to inform you.
I know.
Before you read the entire email, you go drink water first, and you calm yourself down and you tell yourself that no, it's not about you, right? Because I understand that they have a lot of things that they're looking for, and maybe it's not that you're not good for that post and you're not good for that program. Maybe they're just looking for certain people and certain things. And then you also have to understand that it's just that I believe a lot in that if it's not really your time, it's okay, let the program go. And then for the program that I was doing, it really wasn't it didn't have any boundaries on gender, because when we went there were 5 of us from Zimbabwe, and then 3 of us were girls. So I feel like such programs, and I also like when they're making out calls lately, they do even specify that we encourage young girls to apply. So I feel like girls should also start putting themselves out there, because those projects are really, really great for us, and I really don't think that anyone would put a barrier on you and say, because you're a girl you can't do this. So and the fun fact is that they're not looking for overqualified people. They're not going to say come with a PhD or a degree. They just want a young girl who wants to try.
Okay. And what of yours? Were there any exceptions in terms of the applications?
So it was like for both girls and boys. And from Zimbabwe, we were 2 in that cohort. And I think even the previous cohort, there were 2. So, and we were about 52, like in the entire cohort. And that's like the whole world. So I feel like 2 is okay. And the application wasn't hard for me. I feel like it was okay because my strength is like essays. So it was mostly essays. And then, of course, there was a lot because like you're going to go to another country. So they want to make sure you have the right vaccines and you have a passport and just a whole lot of things like technology checks. Do you have a functional phone, laptop, stuff like that for the work that you're going to do? That's right about it. I feel like it wasn't hard, really. It just had a lot of things you had to do, but it was okay. It was age appropriate.
Okay. I think that's really great. So, rate your program on a scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate your program? Do you think it was, considering the call when they called for applications, do you think it really spoke to you and the actual program delivered as they had promised?
So I feel like as a person who's so in love with art, for me the fact that I got to do what I love doing, which is raising awareness for certain issues, and then you get to do that while on stage. I remember the first time I went on a stage, and then you're going to see the audience that starts coming in, and then at the end of the show you have all those people that are asking all those questions about what's really happening down in your country, and you have some of them even crying in some certain moments of the play. And so for me, honestly, for me, that would be my 10 out of 10. The fact that I was able to stand on a stage, have such big audiences, and have all of them relate to the message that I'm trying to preach. So for me, that would be my 10 out of 10. And the fact that I got to engage with so many young people, get to hear their views. Because some here and there, you meet other young extroverts like yourself. And so when you hear the work that they're doing in an environment that's completely different to yours, you're like, so it's different parts of the world with different issues, but we still have young people trying to create a change. So I think I'll rate it, a 10 out of 10.
Okay. And Andile?
I would rate it a 9 out of 10. The reason why I'm rating it a 9 is because I feel like a program isn't just like what it's designed to be. It's also what I make of it. And that's what makes it that makes the overall rating for me. So the 1 goes to I know there are ways I could have done more because there was a lot happening. First, you have to go to work every day. Also, you're living with other international students. You have to make sure you get to know them. You're social with them as well. And make sure you're learning as well and doing all these things. So I felt like maybe I could have done more to make the program more holistic for myself. Particularly when it comes to maybe getting to know my housemates more in my spare time.
Okay.
So that's a 9.
That would also be one of my key interests in asking that those exchange programs, they're beyond just what you're doing there for the project. And and it's also getting used to the people that you spend so much time with. I'm interested. Did you get homesick at some point? Did you get frustrated with the people that you live with?
I did, because so in my house that I was living in, I was living with 2 Brazilians, 1 Italian, and 2 Chinese. So sometimes we had a bit of clashes, but not really much. I could say we were mostly introverts, most of us. So we all could have done better when it comes to having quality time together when we're not at work and all. But in general, I feel like we got along pretty well. Yeah.
And the language barrier, how was it?
Oh no, everyone was speaking English.
Okay. There's also the language barrier. Yes, and I just my last question that I'm not even supposed to be asking. You spoke of essays, right? When you're applying, what advice would you give to another young person who wants to apply? Because sometimes I also struggle with essays. Do you ever write an essay and then you keep deleting it because you feel it doesn't sound nice? Sometimes I really don't know what to write. Should I use the big English words? Keep it simple. What should I include? Really?
I could just say the key is to be authentic. Because authenticity is what people are looking for in your application. If it sounds like AI or something that anyone else would write, then they're not getting to know you. So use an essay to help people get to know you and what you're about and what your purpose is. It's not really about the big English, but I think it's just all about being authentic and try to be creative as well.
Okay. So what fellowships or programs are you guys looking forward to? What do you guys think should be implemented, especially for home, for young girls? Do you think the problem is with access, or what? What do you guys think should be done so that more girls can have access to these programs?
I feel even in the way those programs are advertised, the calls don't get to everyone. And that's what I don't like sometimes, because you're going to hear that someone is going on a certain exchange program and you've never heard of it. And so then you start asking yourself, why don't such calls go to all the young girls? Because I feel there are others that had a short too, but the fact that you really never know what's going on with exchange programs. So I feel it all starts maybe with us, that if I see a certain opportunity and I know that it relates to people that I know, I share it with them. So I feel the first thing would be that those programs, they should make sure that their calls reach everyone, because there are so many people who would want to try out, but they really don't know that a certain thing exists. So I think it would be helpful. And also, if we get our young girls to be groomed in how to apply, really, because also I was never taught. So you have to figure everything out with every email that comes in and says, we're great to inform you. And you have to fix your certain mistakes, and you're okay, in the previous application I did this, so maybe let me change this. And you keep trying to figure it out on your own. But imagine, had we left high school and we had someone coaching us for certain things like scholarships, exchange programs, I think would be very far. So maybe that's also the thing. We need education on how to apply for those things and on how to look for them, because sometimes you're on social media and they're available there. Some ads they're available there, but you're just scrolling on basic things and you don't even know where to look for them, which sites to look for, you know. So I think education on the ground is really important too for our young girls.
Yeah. Okay.
And I also think like it's important for us who have been on exchange programs to like share with other people, because I got to know about this exchange program through someone who was an alumni. So if they hadn't shared about it like on their WhatsApp status or talked about it, then I wouldn't have known. So I shouldn't keep this to myself, you know. I shouldn't keep amplifying girls' voices to myself.
Yeah.
I should share the content. I should like let other people know, let other girls know. And I think that's like the first point of contact, because you know we have a digital divide, so you can't expect someone to have access to Instagram, especially the ones who need the opportunities the most. They don't have that access to digital media. So I think we should make sure that we spread the word, help other people with applications, go to your previous high school, stuff like that.
Okay.